Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Sleeping Witchy, and I'm sipping on some black tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page for additional painting perks. So let's get painting, and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, cobalt blue, Mars black, deep yellow, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, and chrome orange. And of course you can switch those up as well. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. Then I have a number 6 round synthetic brush and a number 2 round synthetic brush. And I may refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I'll just call them out by name. And of course you can switch those up as well. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have some kind of cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as some kind of towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to be doing for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 2 round to demonstrate how to pre-mix 2 custom colors. The colors I'm going to be using in this step are white, blue, and black, and I'm going to pre-mix myself a light blue and a dark blue, which I have magically already done on my palette, so you can see where I'm headed while I guide you into these 2 colors. So this is what I'm going to refer to as my dark blue. How I achieved this is mostly cobalt blue, and then I just added a teeny tiny touch of black into it. The black will quickly make it dark, so just add a little dot at a time. And know that it'll probably go a little bit darker than this as it dries on your canvas. So just kind of prepare for that. Then this is my light blue over to the next to the dark blue. How I achieved this is mostly cobalt blue. And then I added black and white to it. So I'm adding gray to my cobalt blue in order to make it kind of a light, soft, grayish blue, or like a chalky kind of country blue. So something like this is where I'm headed for that color. Once I have those 2 colors mixed, I'm ready to start painting. And you can see I have a good amount of both of these because I'm painting the entire canvas with them. So once I've got those, I'm going to take out my large paintbrush and I'm going to pick up my light blue, and I'm going to be painting the majority of the canvas with this light blue. I'm just going to kind of paint it quickly on here using a left to right type of brush stroke. When I get to the dark blue, I'll start using more of a circular type of brush stroke, but just to get this big center lighter blue color on here, I'm just kind of going back and forth left to right. Once I've got about this much painted, I'm going to start introducing my dark blue to it. So I'm going to pick up dark blue and light blue about 50-50 each, or half and half on my brush, and you can start using kind of a circular type of brush stroke. This does not have to be a perfect blend at this point. We're going to be doing another layer onto this that'll make it look a lot softer and a lot more kind of cloudy-ish. As I go up towards the top, I'm just going to now start picking up my dark blue. So this is just my dark blue, and you can really get it on whatever way you want. You can use, you know, any kind of brush stroke to just kind of get it on here. I'll probably use a little bit of that circular brush stroke before I finish this step, just to kind of get that lighter color to blend a little bit with this darker color. But know that the execution of this initial step, the smoothness of it is not uber important, because like I said, we'll be doing another coat onto this. So any imperfections that you may find and not look finished enough, know that you'll be able to get them to look finished in the next or in a future step. So once we've got this done, I'm just using a light pressure on my brush just to kind of brush out any really heavy spots on this. And then I'm going to actually be using my drawing utensil for the next step. So once you've got it here, you can put this large brush away, take out something to draw with, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for the moon. I'm going to be using my white piece of chalk. You can use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I'm going to guide you through some markers. We'll connect those markers and we'll have a big, huge circle for our moon. I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you to find the center of your canvas. So for me, top to bottom, left to right, the center of mine falls somewhere in through here. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to go to the right of that about an inch and up about an inch. So to the right an inch and up about an inch, give myself another marker. So this is going to represent the center of my moon. The moon that I'm drawing is going to be about 10.5 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is from this marker, I'm going to make a bunch of other marks that are about 5.25 inches away. So for me, if I just go straight up from here, I land about 1.75 inches away from the edge of my canvas, somewhere in that vicinity. So then I can use, once I have one marker, even if your marker isn't exactly the same as mine, once I have one marker, I can use my anything as a measuring tool. And I can say, all right, I can bring it to that center and I can put my finger kind of right at where that first marker is. And then I can go around the canvas and make myself as many marks as I feel would be necessary for me as the drawer to, well, this is going to be an awkward angle here, for me to connect to make a circle. So you might only need 4, you might need 18, however many you need. And then what I do is with these markers around the edge, I'm going to connect them just using kind of a sketcherly line. So I think what you want to avoid doing is if you have them too far spaced across, you want to avoid kind of accidentally going in a diagonal like that. So you want to make sure that you just kind of keep going around in a circular type of shape. And if it's not a perfect circle, it's all right, because we're going to be doing a lot of painting on top of this that will help to disguise or help to reshape it if you need it to be reshaped at any point. So once we have that done, we're going to go on to the next step, which will be done with our large paintbrush. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the first layer to our moon. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 2 round to demonstrate how to premix another custom color. So the colors I'm going to be using in this step are white and black, and maybe a little bit of my light blue and dark blue. So I'm going to premix myself a gray color, which I have magically done on my palette here. How I achieve this gray is just black and white. So I'm going for kind of a mid-tone gray here. which will be probably on the same or similar tonal value to my light blue. So somewhere in through here. Once I've got that, I'm going to put my mixing tool away and I'm going to start painting my moon. So it's going to be dominant color is going to be gray and white. I'm going to be using a circular kind of brush stroke like this, just kind of getting on some of that color. I then go with a light touch with my brush around these edges to just kind of give myself the exterior shape of that moon. So I'm doing this with very little bit of paint on my brush for this exterior circle. For me, I find that when I'm trying to do a symmetrical kind of line, such as a horizon line or the shape of a moon, I like to kind of go fast. And I think for me that my hand going in a fast motion is smarter than my brain going in a slow motion. So that just to me helps me get more of a executed perfect, not perfect, but better than if I was to sit here and go really slow. And over time, as I do this, I get better and better at it, and I can just kind of use those loose edges or soft edges and get it to smooth out as I go through the process. I'm now picking up some white, and I'm going to just start adding some white or lighter tones in through here. I did not wash my brush, so I am allowing just these additional colors to make their way into the moon. And again, as I go around those edges, or as I'm nearing those edges, I'm just kind of using that soft directional brush stroke as if it's going around the edges of the moon. And then I just kind of keep smoothing this out. And if you want, you can also add a couple of your bluer tones. I wouldn't add too much of the blue tones because you don't want it to look exactly like your sky. But if you wanted to pick up a tiny bit of dark blue, you could certainly add some little darker tones into there. You could also do the same with your light blue. And we are going to do another step to the moon. So just know that this will have opportunity to morph into something that's a little bit more defined, if you will. But this is all I'm going to do for mine for this first step. So once you've got this done, we are going to use this same large brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the sky. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint. The colors that I'm going to use are dark blue, light blue, white, and maybe a little bit of brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in essence, do a second coat of my sky and add some atmospheric dimension. I might add some little clouds around the bottom, just so we really have a nice full-on October sky to work with. So right around the moon, I'm going to put probably a little bit of my dark blue to get it to pop, and then I will fade out into a little bit more of my light blue and then go back out to my dark blue. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of light blue on my brush, dark blue on my brush, and I'm going to go right around the edge of the moon. And again, I'm not using a lot of paint, so what'll happen is, again, it'll kind of leave these soft edges as it's touching the moon. And when we go to finish the moon, we'll have the opportunity to kind of soften it once again. So I'm just going for some soft edges around my moon today. Sometimes I go for really tight edges, sometimes soft edges. So today we're just going to go for some soft edges. I'm now going to pick up some of my light blue on my dirty brush as I go around that top side of the moon. So that way it'll maybe blend a little bit with the dark blue on my brush, and I'll get some like mid-tone, something like this. And again, just softly kind of touching the edges of my moon, or even overlapping them a little bit if you want to. That'll give it a nice kind of 3D dimensional appearance if that moon goes a little bit darker as it's touching that sky. So something like that. I'm going to now pick up a little bit more of my light blue. So the goal here is I'm going to be, for this sky, going to be doing an entire second coat all over the sky, and just trying to add some nice atmospheric dimension. So that's where this circular brush stroke is going to come into play. It's going to make it look like it's got some cloudy stuff going on, some misty stuff. I'm picking up some dark blue right now, and you can really have it in whatever tonal value you want. You could even have a black sky if you want, but for me, I just kind of wanted to have lots of blues, making it look like kind of a midnight type of atmosphere, so you can overlap your dark blue into your light blue, using this circular brush stroke, or vice versa, your light blue into your dark blue, and just getting it to really just have a nice, soft, atmospheric kind of glow to it. Keep picking up dark blue at this point just to kind of get a nice second coat, so I don't see my brush strokes from that original layer that I put on there. So this is allowing me to get a nice finished look to it. As I come down towards the bottom, I kind of want it to look like there's some clouds, but in order for the clouds to really pop, I want to put some dark blue down in this bottom left and bottom right. So dark blue is going on my brush to get to this bottom left and bottom right. And then once I've got that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my way towards some lighter clouds going towards the moon, as if the moon is illuminating those clouds. So I can start with just picking up a little bit of light blue and just kind of giving myself this fun, fluffy kind of appearance. You don't need a lot of paint on your brush to accomplish this, just kind of allowing yourself to use it in that circular type of motion, almost pushing the lightness towards the moon itself. And then I allow myself to just kind of run out of paint as I'm working my way away from my light source, which is the moon. So something like this. And then as I get towards, even closer towards the moon, I can use some of this to just kind of put some additional little light marks. I'm going to make some of these even lighter in a minute. I just want to make sure before I add my super light stuff that I have a second coat on all of this in order to so it's fully executed. So that looks pretty good. Making sure I've got all that on there, and then I can start building just a little bit more lightness. So this is where the brown is going to come into play. I'm going to wash my brush, wash, and dry my brush, and then I'm going to pick up white plus a teeny tiny touch of brown. So just to show you, really have a very little tiny, even just a little tiny dot of brown. This is just going to give me some a little bit more luminescent quality to these bright spots that I'm going to be putting towards the moon. So these again are going to be just kind of little clouds, the little tips of the clouds. You can make them as bright as you want, as fluffy as you want. I'm just looking for just the little edges of these clouds to be kind of pointing towards that moon. You don't have to do as many as I'm doing. These are just, again, to add just a little bit of atmospheric dimension to the composition, but you might want just stars, you might want, no clouds. Maybe even you want some clouds kind of drifting right in front of your moon. And if at any time you feel that you did too much or you want to back any of this off, you can certainly pick up, say, your light blue again. Just pick up a little bit of light blue and just kind of introduce that to the clouds or soften them out a bit, whatever you're feeling is comfortable for you to do or visually appealing for you. So if you're going about yours and you're saying, that's just not working for me, it's not turning out the way that I had hoped it would or thought it would or wanted it to, you can certainly just kind of bring yourself back to those original colors and just start building it back up again in whatever way, again, is visually appealing to you. So I'm going to use the remnants on my brush and just kind of work some of this out. And I'm thinking that that's looking pretty cool. Maybe just use the remnants to add just a little bit more up in through here. And then once you've got it into a place that is visually appealing to you, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it. I'm just going to put a little bit more of my dark blue back here. So you can wash this brush and dry it and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish the moon. I'm gonna be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are white, brown, and maybe a little bit of my gray, and maybe a touch of my dark blue. So I just wanna add another layer to it, make sure my edges are as smooth as I want, and maybe give it just a little bit more cratery type look. So I'm gonna start maybe around my edges with a touch of white and my gray, and just kind of lightly go around these edges just so I have them as soft as I want. And again, this is where I could use my dark blue. If I felt, I just picked up a tiny bit of dark blue. If I felt that I wanted it to be just a little bit more blurred or out of focus around those edges, I could pick up that white, gray, and a little bit of my dark blue, and I can get a really soft edge going. So I think that's what I'm going to do. White, blue, or white, gray, and a touch of my dark blue, just to make sure that I've got these edges the way that I want. And again, very little bit of paint. That was probably too much paint on my brush, so we're just gonna work it out here. And then if you want a lot of dimension on the moon, I'm gonna be putting a lot of lighter tones on one side, which is gonna be my right side, and maybe darker tones on my left side. So that, or like my left bottom. So that'll make it look like it's got a nice dimensional appearance to it. So I'm going to just kind of soften these edges out. I might need a little bit of dark blue in that sky. So if you come to a point where the sky needs a tiny bit of work around it too, you can just work on that too if you need to. That looks good. And then I'm going to pick up some white and go in for some bright stuff over here on the right hand side. So if you leave, I'm using the same kind of brush stroke, which is this circular brush stroke. If you leave some of those darker spots within your moon, that's what's going to make it look like it's got some cratery stuff happening. And if you go kind of brighter in through here and leave it a little bit darker as it goes towards those edges, that'll give it that 3D type of appearance. So just little tricks along the way to give you that that additional appearance if you want it to be. And if it's not blending out the way that you want, or you want it to look a little bit smoother, you can certainly just pick up more paint. So for me, if I pick up white with a little bit of gray on my brush and just kind of work it out, I'm getting a nice smoother, softer look to it. I can again leave some of those craters, and if you want to have that little bit of a luminescent value where it's not just cool grays that you're putting on there, that's where you can pick up a tiny bit of white with the brown. So white with the brown is going to give me more luminescent value. So it's going to make it look like the light is on a little bit more than just those cool tones. So I can fiddle with those, playing with those temperatures of the moon colors in order to get it to look like it's kind of glowing more. You could even put a little bit of glow around the edges with maybe some of a lighter color. And then I'm just going to kind of keep fiddling. I think I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more of my dark blue just to add a couple of little spots here and there. and then just kind of blend them out. So again, you could have just a white moon if you wanted to. That's going to be totally up to you how dramatic you want this. The lighter your moon is, the more your witch is going to pop out, because the witch is going to be in front of this. So if you want her to really be the focal point, because she's going to be darker, she's going to be a dark color. If you want her to really be accentuated as the focal point, you'll want to bring this pretty light, but you know, not, I wouldn't necessarily recommend all the way white, but you could definitely add those lighter values, and that's going to make her stand out quite a bit in the composition. So I'm thinking that I'm digging this. I've got some good changes within the moon's surface with the textures and the colors and stuff. So I think I might call it on mine. You can certainly keep fiddling with yours as much as you want. You could even bring across some of your clouds if you felt maybe with a little bit of your dark blue and white, you could just, you know, pull across some clouds if you wanted to soften the bottom of the moon any, or make it look like it's behind those clouds. You could certainly do that. So that was just a little bit of my dark blue and white, just kind of adding to that little bit of atmospheric dimension. And then we're going to be using our drawing utensil yet again for the next step. So you can put this one away, take out something to draw with, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our character, our witch. I'm going to be using my white piece of chalk. You can certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I'm going to again guide you through a series of markers. We'll connect those markers, and by the time we're done, we'll have something that we'll be able to utilize during the painting in process. So again, I'm going to guide you to find yourself the center of your canvas, top to bottom, left to right. So for me, that falls somewhere in this vicinity. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw my broomstick, because that'll make it easier for me to lay my witch on top of it without putting it in a weird position. So I'm just going to take from my halfway point and go to the right almost until I'm maybe about, I would say, 2 inches from the right side of my canvas, and then come down maybe about a half of an inch to an inch, somewhere in through here. That'll be the tip of it. And then on the left-hand side, I'm going to be a little bit above my halfway point. So again, maybe just come towards the left-hand side halfway and go up maybe about a half of an inch to an inch, somewhere in through here. So then I can just connect these like this, and it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a broom. So I'm going to make mine maybe about 1/4 to a half of an inch wide, something like this. And then on the end back over here, I'm going to just at some point maybe a couple inches, maybe somewhere in through here, give myself the what's going to be the where the straw parts come out. The straw part comes out somewhere in through here, and then just kind of give yourself whatever kind of makeshift little outline you want for that. And of course that can be modified during the painting process as well. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the halfway point, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, whenever I think of a woman's figure, because I'm painting a woman here, I think of like an hourglass type of shape that is a little bit, you know, out and then comes in and then back out. So if she's laying down, I'm going to give her that same profile on the side. So I'm going to guide you to do a bump for her hip, dip it down for her waist, and then a bump for her shoulder. I'm going to have her shoulder a little bit higher than her hip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come about halfway between my halfway point and where my broomstick straw part starts, or a little bit in from the edge of my moon. So somewhere in this vicinity is my first marker. I'm going to come almost halfway between these two. So if this is halfway, I'm a little bit closer to the left, and then come up maybe about 1.5 inches, somewhere in that vicinity. And then on the right hand side from my halfway point, I'm going to come over maybe just about 1.5 inches, somewhere in through here, and then split the difference between these two and go just slightly higher than I did this marker. This is the hip. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect here to here to here to here. I'm going to dip it in between. So I'm going to take this and give myself a round edge, dip it down, bring it, here's her hip, and then bring it back down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pillow on. So I'm going to have the pillow just kind of touching this mark in through here, and it's just going to kind of come down and just drape down past my my stick and kind of come back up here. So maybe just 1.5 inches past where we did that mark for her body, and then just bring it back like here. So I've got a shape in through here where her hand is going to be able to lay, and her hat can kind of drape over. So I'm going to put her hat on now. So her hat is just going to kind of drape over her shoulder. It's going to dip down and rest on top of the pillow. So I'm going to take it from this top left-hand shoulder and come out and up just a little bit. So somewhere in through there is going to be the tip of it. And then on the right-hand side, I'm just a little bit below the right tip of the pillow. So somewhere in through here. So what I can do from here is I'm going to take it and I'm going to just kind of drape it. Let me just see in through here. I think that looks, yeah, somewhere in through here. So I'm going to take it down and ride the shoulder, and then I'm going to bring it and drop it right down to that pillow in through here, and then bring it over into that tip. And then I'm going to do the top side. This is going to be the rim of the hat. So I can take the top side and just bring it like this and just kind of give it a similar profile. And then in through here, this just kind of meets in through there. And then I can have fun with the tippy top of the hat. The whole idea though is you want the width of the hat that's going on top of the head, not the brim, the width of the hat, to look like it would fit her head. So I'm going to take it from here, give myself a marker, and just to the right of that shoulder, give myself a marker. I feel her head could fit in there. And then for the tip of it, I'm going to put the tip way up in through here. So I can take from here, kind of taper it in, go up high and back in through here. And then this is going to tell the viewer her head is in here. Just taper it a little bit and bring it like this. I'm putting it to the left so it looks like I'm putting her in motion. If the broom is going that way, the tip of her hat would be going that way. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to employ the same movement thought when I go down to her dress. So she's laying down. So I'm going to put her arm the arm that's closest to the viewer is kind of crooked and under her kind of between the pillow and her face. So I'm going to take it from the center of my canvas. I'm actually going to bring this up just a little bit for where her armpit is, and then bring it down just past my pillow and bring it back up like this. The rest of this in through here we'll be able to do with the painting process. I need her other arm on the other side to be dangling. So if her shoulder is here on this side, it would probably be maybe a little bit to the right and down on the other side. So I'm just going to kind of put a dangling kind of forearm in through here. So something maybe around that height. You also want to just kind of make sure that it can be a little bit smaller than this arm. If this is my elbow and I'm going to have maybe my wrist is about here, I want to kind of imagine that that's going to be a similar length on the other side, just so they aren't too out of proportion. She's laying on the broomstick, so I want her to appear to be kind of partially on this side. So I'm actually going to put her belly a little bit lower than my broomstick. So I'm going to come right here and give a little kind of curve where her belly's going to overhang. And now I want to put her dress on. So I'm going to bring her foot is going to be somewhere in this vicinity. So I want her foot to show, or at least the one on our side to show. So I'm going to bring my dress somewhere around that vicinity. So from here, I'm just going to kind of drape this down in a nice flowy way. And then on the left-hand side, I want it to look like it's kind of being taken by the wind with the movement off to the left. So I'm going to take it down here and then just kind of bring it out somewhere in through there. From here to here, I can just do whatever kind of fun little flippy flop stuff I want to do. This will be further defined during the painting process, but at least that'll get you started. And then her foot, I've got somewhere in through here. So you just want to imagine if this is her hip, her knee would probably come about here. Then her leg is probably just dangling if she's sleeping. It might be crooked back a little bit, but I'm just going to kind of have her ankle somewhere in through here. And then I'm just going to have kind of like a witch high heel boot thing happening. Ooh, that looked funny. Something like that. And of course we can define that a little bit more as we paint, but maybe something like that will work. There we go. That looks good to me. And then to not confuse us, I'm going to take a little bit of water on my brush and erase a couple of these lines. I'm going to erase my guideline within the pillow. I'm going to erase my guideline within her arm, and then I'm going to erase my guideline in her body, or the guideline for the broom. So something like that. So it'll look like she is now laying on top. That's all I'm doing for my drawing. If you feel, I might during the painting process put the hint of the second foot, but I'm not going to do that during my drawing stage. And she'll have a hand later too. But this is all I'm going to be doing for my drawing stage. We'll use the number 6 brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our witch and her stick and her pillow. So the objects that we just drew, we're painting the base coat for. I am using my number 6 round. The colors I'm going to be using are black, brown, white, and maybe a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to be using brown and white to make a tan, which I'll do for the base coat for my pillow. I'm painting all of my witch with a base coat of black. And then my broomstick, I'm probably going to use brown, white, and a little bit of yellow, just so it starts off with a little bit of a wood tone. So I am going to start with my broomstick. So brown with a tiny bit of yellow and a tiny bit of white. It's mostly brown, just a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white is going on my broomstick. It's going on my paintbrush. And then I'm just going to kind of paint this in through here. Give myself just a little, the appearance of maybe some little straw. I don't need this to be anything fancy right now. I'm really just kind of getting the base coat on here. Actually, I'm going to pick up a little bit of black for this too. So a little bit of black, just so I can get some different tones in here started right away without needing to do too much work. We'll finish it up later. I think I kind of want this to go even further with my little pieces of straw. So that looks nice. And then I'm going to be using just the remnants on my brush, brown and yellow and a little bit of whatever else is on there to do this part of my broomstick. So know that this broomstick does not need to be straight. I mean, you can make this like an old rickety piece of wood. You can make it super fancy and ornate if you wanted to. Whatever is speaking to you is the way that you should do it. And also know that we're going to be doing a second coat on it as well. So if it's not looking perfect yet, it doesn't need to. And then I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to do my pillow. So I've pre-mixed a tan on my palette here with just brown and white. So nothing fancy here. I just wanted it to stand out and look different than my moon. So that's where the tan is coming into play. And we'll, again, make it prettier later. But this is just going to get us started. And I've got it shaped so it looks like she is, you know, sinking into it and is very, very comfortable on her kind of cruise control broom ride in through here. So there we go, like that. And then I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to put black paint on it. So the only trick here when I'm doing these other objects, because they're all going to be black, is just kind of knowing where you want one to go. In through here, if I felt it was necessary to to delineate my dress from my boot, I'd leave a little bit of line between my dress and my ankle, but I don't think that that's important in this area. So I'm just going to paint the whole thing with black. And this is definitely a time where you could kind of reshape things if you wanted to. So if you get down to that boot, I'm putting a little bit of water on my brush too, because I know that this is a little tiny area. If you get down to the boot and you say, oh, I think I need to bring this out a little bit further, maybe tweak the angle of it, whatever you feel would benefit you in this process, you can certainly do that. I'm going to just kind of bring this down so it's more at a little bit of an angle. And of course, whatever kind of shoe you want to put on is totally fine. Maybe she's wearing sneakers. You can make up those decisions all on your own. Just try and put the foot in proportion to her body. So you don't want this foot to be too small. See, you can see I'm reshaping it as I'm going. I thought that toe was a little bit too big, so I just kind of reshaped that a little bit. And I'm gonna have another oh, I think I kind of want, sorry, I'm like, look at all these cute design elements. Let's put a little ankle part to her boot too. Yeah, I like that. So these are the little elements that you can certainly make on your own. So now I'm gonna do the rest of her in just black. I don't need to do anything fancy here. Just picking up my black. It's going to be when I get towards the head, that's when I'm going to want to kind of slow it down and allow for myself to leave some of my outlines evident during this process, so especially that arm, so I don't lose it. When I get to these frillies on the edge, this is up to you. So I love to, especially when I'm doing witches clothing, I love the little like fringed edges to it. It just, I don't know, speaks to that kind of character in my character making brain. So that's where I'm just kind of bringing out these little pieces, and the wind is taking it because that's the direction that she's going. So when you're doing stuff like this, if you can add those pieces of movement into it. Oh, I got some little hard pieces here. It helps to explain the story to the viewer. So just adding, you know, these little bits of pieces onto her dress is going to explain to the viewer that that broomstick is in motion as opposed to just in a standstill position in the air. So those are just little cues that you as the artist get to impart in the composition in order to explain to the viewer what's happening. Because we're not always going to make three-dimensional paintings where they're going to understand everything because you've executed every single 3D hyper-realistic element to it. So when we want to be more playful and more kind of graphic or illustrative and just allow for, you know, even more flat colors or more basic techniques, just doing something like that, adding that movement into the composition can just tell part of the story. So I slowed down here. I'm leaving this little guideline for her arm, elbow area, so I know where I wanted that to be. And I'm going to do the same thing around her, I guess around her shoulder too, because that'll be important to know where that is when I go to put her face on, or whatever details I want to put underneath that hat. She's going to have a lot of hair hiding strategic things. So just know if you don't get yours exactly as you had thought it would go, it's going to be okay, because I've planned for lots of strategic hiding pieces or little pieces that will help to make your figure look good no matter what. So I'm just putting a little bit of her elbow there and then this other arm in through here. So again, she doesn't have a hand on now. I've planned for that to be painted later. And if you felt that you needed to whip out the smaller paintbrush to get these smaller sections, you can certainly feel free to do that, or put a little bit of water on your brush, and that'll help with the tip of your brush getting just a little bit more precise marks. I'm gonna paint this little inside area in through here. I'm painting this black as well, but I just want to kind of understand where that hat kind of meets this, what's going to be a very shadowed area underneath the hat. And then on the hat itself, I think I want to keep the guideline where the kind of rim meets the top of the hat. I don't know if that's totally important, but oh, there's another little line I want to make too. Hold on, just get a little bit. Let me paint this rim in first, and then I want to add just another little strategic line in a second here. So I get this, and again, the rim of the hat, you could tip that a little bit to the left too if you wanted to, if you wanted that to take on, again, more of the movement. So down on this right hand side, if you bring this edge of the hat and just give yourself a little line like that, we can make this a little three-dimensional piece. So right here, that'll be the underside of the hat that you can see on the other side of the pillow. And then up and through here, just gonna kind of allow myself to put the hat part. You could also bump this hat part out if you wanted it to have a little bit more shape to it. You could bump out the edges, you know, there's lots of different depictions of this style of hat, so make it your own, make it as creative as you want it to be. It never has to be exactly like mine. I'm just guiding you through some techniques in order to get this style of painting created, but you can do whatever you want for the fun details. And then again, this little tip of the hat, I'm going to make it pointier at the tip, and then I can just make it a little bit wider as it comes in through here. And then that's all I'm going to do for my base coat. I'm going to be using probably my number 2 round brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the broomstick. I am using my number 2 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, orange, yellow, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a whole bunch of straw stuff. I'll have maybe some like binder rope, if you will, on here. Maybe a gripper kind of detail up on the top. And just I'm going to have fun, I guess. So I'm going to start with a little bit of black paint and a little bit of water on my brush. So this is going to help me kind of define where I want some certain things. So back on this side in through here, I definitely want kind of a shot, all of it, I'm going to have kind of a shadow on the bottom and within the details. So I'm going to start with that right now, the black with a little bit of water, and just kind of outline or give myself some darkness down towards the bottom. And this is one of the stages where I will start to get rid of some of my, or get rid of my guidelines, because this is going to be the only step that I do for my broom. I want to have kind of a little part that is holding the straw on. So I'm going to have maybe 1, 2 little lines in through here. And you can also, when you're doing stuff like this, just bring, if I'm doing a little detail like this, I can bring this mark out past my, past the width of the broom rod. So that way it looks like it's kind of 3-dimensional. I can take a little bit of my black, and then within these, within the straw pieces, I can put some smaller, darker pieces, so that'll give this bottom, again, more of a 3D type of a look. I will come back through in a little bit with some lighter pieces, but this is, again, just going to kind of start that process and give that nice deep darkness. I also think I want to put like some of the pieces of straw coming up top, so I'm going to just kind of put a little extra bits in through here. So something like that. And then down in on the front part, again, just a little bit of water and black on my brush. And I'm going to take it and give myself a nice dark shadow at the bottom. And I'm depicting in my head and on my canvas, I'm depicting this broomstick as wood. So I'm allowing myself to kind of give it a grain, kind of a wood grain type of a look. You can certainly do whatever you want with yours. Yours can be metal, it can be whatever you want. But for me, wood grain is nice and easy because you can be pretty flowy with your brush stroke. I'm going to put maybe a little gripper thing. Maybe just a couple of little curves going up. And then, because you know, every good broomstick needs something to grip onto. Sorry. So we've got this in through here. And just the curves, again, the curves tell the viewer that this is a round object. So that looks good. Maybe we'll put this one in a strategic spot. So she's got something really good to hold on to here. Here we go. And then I'm going to start just building my highlights. So I'm going to wash my brush or start building the rest of it. I'm going to pick up some brown and orange. So brown and orange is going to, is going to give me almost like a chestnutty kind of color in through here. Again, make it into whatever color that you want, but I'm using the brown and the orange to create this like almost a chestnut type of a look. I think I want a good amount on this thing right here. This little highlights and just giving the straw and the broomstick a little bit more nice color. Going to do the same thing on the front, orange plus a little bit of brown. And I'm sticking this kind of more towards the shadowy, darker side. Again, just to give some quick, good dimension to it, but you can, of course, play with yours whatever way that you want. And I just kind of keep picking up both of those colors. I don't necessarily want the orange to dominate too much. I'm really just using it as kind of a kind of a wood grain tone. And then I want to add some lighter stuff. So this is where I can use orange, yellow, brown, and even a touch of white. So I've got all four colors and I'm just kind of tapping my brush into all four of them without totally mixing it, blending the paint. So I have all four colors on my brush and I can use this as these little highlights, speaking to the wood grain as well as the straw. So if you want them to be different, the wood grain to be a totally different color than this straw on the broom, you could certainly fiddle with those tones and make maybe your wood grain is more brown and maybe your straw to your broom is a little bit more goldy. Whatever you want is up to you. I've got this little piece in through here that I kind of want to look like it's got some straw. And then I'm going to go over to the front and then I'll do one little final pass with a highlight with some white in a minute. So like that, I'm going to take these and do them in this curved manner. So it looks like these are kind of a little bit wider than the broom itself. And then this guy is going that direction. Super cool. Now I'm picking up a tiny bit more white on my brush, on my dirty brush, and just really kind of accentuating just maybe a couple of little highlights maybe here and there that maybe the moon would be catching a little bit of these. And if the white's too much, just pick it up with any one of those other colors. One of your highlight colors, the orange, the yellow, and you can certainly just kind of keep fiddling with this. I just kind of pulling out these longer strands in through there. That looks pretty cool. Just work this out around here and then a little bit on that front. So just a little bit more white. So this is going to just kind of speak to that moon illuminating maybe these little edges maybe this little top side, maybe this little top side. And if you felt that you needed to do anything else, you certainly could, but I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the pillow and her skin. I'm going to be using my number 2 round brush. The colors that I'm going to use are brown, orange, white, black, and that, I forget what I called it. I think I called it tan color, the brown and white that we used for the initial pillow. And I'm going to make myself a light brown color that I'm going to use for her skin, which I have already done on my palette here. So this color that I have right here, I achieved by mixing brown, a little bit of orange, and white. So I don't need much for her skin tone. She just has a couple, her dangling hand, and then I'm just going to give the hint of her other hand underneath her hat. Her face is going to be entirely hidden by her hair, but if you felt that you wanted to put some skin on her face, you could certainly do that. So I'm just using my light brown right now, and I'm going to create a little dangling hand. So I'm thinking this is my left hand dangling, so I'm going to have my 4 fingers and then my little thumb. So I can take this, and you can even just look at your own hand and see which fingers are taller than the other. So I'm going to do, maybe there's my pointer, there's my middle finger, my ring finger, and then my pinky finger, something like that. Oh, that looks a little too short. So let's bring those down just a little bit longer. And she could have long fingernails too, if you wanted that to happen. Her thumb, I'm going to just have kind of tucked under here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my light brown plus a tiny bit of white, so you can actually just kind of see that little thumb in a little bit lighter of a color, something like that. And you could, manipulate that as much as you want. I'm going to I just wiped my brush off. I'm picking up a tiny bit of brown so I can just kind of darken up the inside of her hand. So these are just kind of little, I'm imagining part of her hand to actually be hidden under her sleeve, but if you felt that you wanted to make it any more exciting than mine, you could certainly do that, but I'm just going to kind of leave it as is. I like that. So then I'm going to just wipe my brush off, pick up some more of my light brown. Again, I'm just considering, this is going to be this hand, and it's just kind of under her head and through here. So just kind of resting on that pillow, something like that, and then it goes into the wrist of her sleeve. So the sleeve can always cover whatever you don't, whatever doesn't work. And I'm going to put, if you felt, I'm just going to just put a tiny layer of this in through here, just so it's not entirely jet black, in case any little bits are showing. I'm going to hide it with hair, but just in case. I'm picking up a tiny bit of black right now, which I think I said I was going to use, but I'm not sure if I did. And then just put a little shadow kind of underneath her hand, just so we can make sure that that is nice and shadowed. A little bit of brown is going on my brush right now. I'm disguising this as much as I want or can, because I want this to be darker than this one down here, because it's shadowed under her hat. So I think that that is all I want to do for that area. Again, this is all going to be hair draping over that. So that looks good. I'm going to move on to my pillow. So I want this pillow to really read as a pillow. So I'm going to have it kind of nice and light on this corner here, but I'm going to have it kind of shadowed everywhere where it's tucked in. So I'm going to pick up, or depressed by her body. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of black and brown and water on my brush. So I have black, brown, and water. And I know she would be pushing it in quite a bit in through here. So I'm going to just kind of put some real darkness in through there. And then you can even kind of just pull out these kind of like little creases where you feel it would be, you know, puffing out to the fluffier areas. Even under her arm, there's probably a little shadow in through here, and she's pushing it down with her arm. So I'm just kind of pushing a little bit of the shadow up in through there, and then just blending it out into that tan color. Underneath the hat's probably casting a shadow on my pillow too, or on her pillow. So I'm going to put some of this black, brown, and a little bit of water up in through here as more of kind of a shadowy area. And then even the broomstick is probably pushing up a little bit of that pillow. So I'm going to put a little bit more darkness in through here as if the broomstick is pushing up that pillow. I'm going to actually pick up a little bit more black. I feel like I want kind of a good little shadow underneath here. And if you felt that like you wanted more of the pillow to overhang that side, which I feel like I want to do that. I'm picking up some tan. Hold on. I kind of want to bring this pillow down on the other side of my broomstick. Just like that. So it looks like it's kind of hanging over there. I'm picking up some brown. Oops, that wasn't brown. Hold on. Picking up some brown and just kind of making that pillow look like it's going around the broomstick. There we go. That's a fun illusion. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some highlights. Let me just put a little bit of darkness down at the bottom side of this pillow down here, just so we can have so a little bit more fluff to that pillow. Yeah, I'm going to pick up some of my tan, tan, so that would be the lighter version that we started with for this pillow. And if you bump into her arm like I did, don't worry, we still got to paint her arm. So tan is where I'm going. And then I'm going to start picking up some white. So I just wiped my brush off. I'm picking up some white. So my brightest area is probably going to be right in through here, where that pillow is going to be the fluffiest. And then I just kind of give it soft edges into those little shadows. So I just blend it out a little bit. I want a little bit more lightness right in through here. So if you don't want to go all the way white, you can pick up white plus the tan, and that's going to allow you kind of a gradual way to work away from those dark shadowy areas. So I'm just kind of allowing myself to make sure that the pillow looks like it's got some good form to it, and that's where these lighter colors are coming into play. And then I just kind of blend them out into those little shadowy areas. I can always come back and just continue to layer to get it, if I do one area a little bit too much or too little. Oh, that's looking pretty good. So I feel like I want to go just a little bit lighter up in through here. So I just picked up a little bit more white, and then I'll just kind of blend it out. So you can certainly, as you're doing this, just know wherever you want the pillow to puff out the most, you want the lightest, and wherever you want it to sink back the most, you want it darker. So as it's sinking into where she is, it's going to get darker. As it's shadowed underneath, because it's farther away from the viewer, it's going to get darker. Where it's depressed from the broomstick, it's going to get darker. Where it's under the hat, it's going to get darker. And you can just kind of keep fiddling with those as much as you want. I will probably step back from mine and see if I need to add anything more to it, but I'm thinking like it's looking pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more lightness on this corner. And then once you've got your pillow all puffed out enough, we're going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it. Boy, this pillow is pretty fun to paint. And get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint her dress and her hat. But we're going to leave the little details like her belt, and I'm going to have a little buckle thing on her hat. We'll leave that for a future step. I said I was going to use my number 2 round, but I feel like I want to start this step with my number 6 round. And if I need to go into my number 2, I will, and I'll let you know. So the colors that I'm going to be using in this step are black, white, gray, and perhaps a little bit of blue, cobalt blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be using directional brush strokes to tell the viewer the way that the fabric is laying around her body. I'll be doing that with shadows and highlights. That will also, so that'll be, the directional brush stroke will be primarily for the direction of that fabric to see how it's going around her body and draping. And then I'll also be using those highlights and shadows in order to explain the form of her body and her hat. So like where her shoulder and her arm separates from her belly or her chest area, those highlights and shadows will help me to define that type of form on her body. So she's also later going to have a belt that is going to color coordinate with a little band on her hat. So we'll tackle those later. I'll be also getting rid of any of my guidelines that I don't need. But where I'm first going to start is I'm going to start with black and a little bit of gray on my brush. So the easiest part to kind of start on is her skirt, because that's going to just get us really flowing into the motion. So if I have her waist in through here, it tells me that her skirt is probably going to be kind of coming around her rear end, maybe even cinched around here, which would be where her waist is going to go. It could kind of come in through this area, and then it's going to fall. Gravity is going to take over. So it's going to kind of fall like this. So I can do a couple of these directional brush strokes with black and gray to just start setting to set the stage. So black and gray is where I'm allowing myself to start with this. I don't need to overdo anything on here. I can just be really subtle if I want to. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black to just make sure that I've got everything blending the way that I want. And then we'll afterwards put a nice kind of highlight on her rear end to just really define where that is. You can even just bring this down. Just imagine it going over her rear end and then kind of coming back. So you can really just have fun with how that fabric flows. It can even come down a little bit, in not just backwards, but it can come down a little bit. And you can even put a tiny bit of water on your brush in order to get the paint to just kind of flow a little bit better and just blend out if you want it to. Again, I am not concerned about the edges of my dress looking all hemmed or anything like that. I definitely am more into this being just a really fun frayed type of appearance. And then I'm just going to use my black with a little bit of water and my gray paint to just get rid of any of my guidelines that I don't want, and also to bring this over her leg too, so just so you can see the edge of her dress as well as it's coming over her leg. So you can make yours in whatever way that you want. Again, you could do it in even different colors. So if you wanted to incorporate purples or greens or any additional color, that would totally work out. But I definitely want it to look like she's just really relaxed and having a good, a good snooze. She's kind of asleep on the job if you ask me, but what do I know? And then I'll just kind of get this to blend into her belly area. Again, just using my directional brush strokes. The other highlighted area is going to be on her arm. So I'm going to use a little of my gray to just kind of get the viewer to understand what's happening here. So if this is going to be her sleeve, I can bring this back in this direction, and then at some point it's going to go up the crook of her arm. So I can take and just kind of give myself a little bit of a light area in through here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black to get rid of that guideline because I don't need it anymore. So something like that. And just using this little bit of a highlight to explain to the viewer where her arm is. You can make it as wide or as thin as you want. That's going to be up to you. I think that that looks pretty good. And again, we're going to hide quite a bit with hair. But I think that this needs to be just a little bit bigger in through here. There we go. And then I'm just going to blend this, what is now kind of a dark gray, up into that shoulder area. And anything that you feel, you know, step away from it. Anything that you feel might be a little out of proportion, you can certainly fiddle with that. I just put a little bit more of the gray on my brush so we can see her elbow a little bit more. Something like that. And it'd probably be kind of cinched at the elbow, so you can even pick up a little bit of black and pull in this little kind of just wrinkle marks if you want to. And then I can also get rid of this separation between the that shoulder and what's going to be the face. Just kind of black that out because that again is going to be kind of hidden with hair, even that shoulder mark up at the top. So just darken it. You don't need to do anything other than that. I think I'm going to darken some of her face too. There we go. Hide it with hair. We're going to hide it with hair later. So I think that that looks pretty good for her, for this arm. This arm here, I don't really need to do much to it. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the gray plus black and maybe give a little bit of a little wrist area and maybe just kind of finish up my edges so I don't have any chalk marks showing. But I'm just putting a couple of little wrinkle lines in here, but I don't really need to do much. I'm going to make sure it's really black up by that pillow. So it'll look like the pillow is casting a shadow on it. So just make sure that that is fully executed up by the pillow area. And I have a couple of chalk marks I want to get rid of. So I'm actually washing my brush and put a little bit of water on it. I'm getting rid of my chalk marks so I can see if I've got the edges where I want them to be. Even her back, I might feel like I might pull up maybe, well, that's going to be covered with hair. Anyways, her shoulder. So I'm just getting rid of my guidelines with a little bit of water. And then while this is kind of settling, I am going to put a little bit more highlights on in a minute. I'm going to go to that hat and pick up a little bit of gray on my brush. I'm going to put some strategic highlights where the hat is laying on top of the pillow and her shoulder. So I've got gray on my brush here. So I'm going to put some gray here and just kind of lightly pull it out a little bit. And then I'm going to put some gray up here where it's resting on her shoulder. And then just kind of pull it out left to right just a little bit in through there. You can also put a little gray on the rim on this side, right? Kind of in through here so the viewer can see the difference between the rim and her pillow. And even over here a little on that rim so you can see the front from the back. While that's kind of settling, I'm going to use that gray on my brush, give myself some highlight in the center of her hat so it looks like it's got some form to it. And you can bring some lighter areas to show where it's kind of wrinkled or puffed out a little bit, and the darker areas will make it look like it's sunk in with wrinkles. So something like this. So just allow yourself to be very free with that making. And then you can pick up some black to make sure that you just have that whole hat colored in. I'm still leaving a little bit of that line because I'm going to have the buckle I was talking about. I'm going to have that in that area. So this is where I was thinking I might switch to my small brush, but Let me see if I'm going to switch to my small brush now, my number 2 round. So again, I'm going to go black with a little bit of water just to clean up this edge of the hat in through here. And then make sure this edge is cleaned up in through here. And then I think I'm going to, that looks good to me. I'm now going to be using a little bit of my cobalt blue plus a touch of gray. I want to add a couple little shinier spots on her. So this is where I'm using a smaller brush with a little bit of blue and gray. So like her rear end, I want that to kind of pop out a little bit more. So I want it to be a little bit lighter, but maybe shinier. So it looks like we've got a shiny dress on. So a little bit of my cobalt blue plus a touch of gray. Can do this with her shoulder too. So if her shoulder is, you know, kind of pushed forward because, you know, she's leaning it down towards her pillow, I can put just a little bit of extra lightness on that, a little bit of that gray. And I could even pull a little bit of this down into her fabric over here. Maybe a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there. I kind of want a little bit of this on her, on this back side of her skirt. And I'm gonna also put an additional highlight in a second too. Just getting these in play. Up here, I know that her hair is gonna cover this. That's why I'm not going too far up on her. I mean, you could totally bring it all the way up, but I'm gonna put some long hair on her, so she doesn't need all that much up there. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of my gray and black, just get this to blend down a little bit more around that. And you could also put some of the skirt on the other side of the stick back here too. So if you felt comfortable with that, you could totally make that stick kind of go into the skirt, or just make the skirt have the movement, directional movement pieces to look like it goes around it. I'm digging that. I totally want a little bit lighter of a mark on her rear end. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and just kind of maybe outline the top. And this is the white is going to, because my moon is not totally white, this white on the edge is going to make her certain parts pop. So if I wanted to do this on other areas too, I certainly could, but I definitely want it on her rear end. So something like that would get that to show up really well. I could definitely do it maybe a little bit on her hat, maybe in through here, and then maybe right over here. Oops, that was too much paint. Maybe over in through here. And then once you've got that done, you can certainly fiddle with it as much as you want. Again, this is going to, the arm is underneath her, shadowed underneath that. I think that all looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to call it on this step. I'm going to use this same, oh yeah, definitely maybe a little bit of white over on this arm too. Yeah. Oh, you could even put it on the hand too. Oh God, now I'm getting moon white crazy. Once you've got this done, you can wash this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do hair, boots, and orange things. So I'm going to use my number 2 round. So I'm going to have her hair come in here, her boot, I might put the sliver of another boot, and then the orange things, which are going to be her belt and the buckle on her hat, and anything else I want to be orange. I'm going to, again, use my number 2 round. I'm going to be using black, gray, white, orange, yellow, and my light brown. So I'm going to use light brown as the start of her hair. So I'm going to start there so that can just kind of start drying while we're doing other things. I really just want her to have a bunch of hair that's just flowing when I think of witches, I think of long, just kind of flowy hair. So I'm going to get it to just kind of come out from under her hat with these nice wispy kind of brush strokes. And I of course will do more to it in a minute, but just kind of getting the party started with where I want it and how I want it to flow. So I'm getting it to come out of the edge of that hat, and you can have her having whatever kind of hair you want, however long you want it, but I'm just starting here. You can have it more or less, and then once I've got that started, again it's going with the movement. Once I've got that, I'm gonna wash my brush, and I'm gonna put in place where I want my orange things to go. So I want to have orange in a couple of different places, and I know that my orange is transparent, so I want to put a white base underneath where I want my orange things. So I'm picking up a little bit of white paint, and I'm going to put her belt on. So I'm going to have a little belt in through here, and you can of course make yours whatever way you want. If you want your it to look like she's got a little form to her, you can just kind of give it a little bit of a curve like that. Again, just make it whatever size you want. You might also find once you've put it on here that you want to cinch her clothing more, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So if I put her little belt on here, that's going to come down farther than her waist, something like that. After I get the other piece on, I'll show you what I was talking about with the cinching. And then if I want her to have a little thing on her hat, this I'm just going to make kind of like a like another belt buckle kind of thing. So something like this. And I'm just doing a thin coat of white paint. Again, this is going to act as kind of like a primer coat to help me cover that black, and it'll make my orange really pop. And I can just bring this out just a little bit more. And again, I'm doing it in kind of curved, so it looks like it's settling with her hat. I'm going to also have her have a cute little sock with some orange stripes on it. So I'm going to just kind of put a couple of little orange stripes underneath here so we can see her cute little sock. Something like this. And you can make her have like scrunched socks, so they don't need to be really perfect stripes. So I'm just making mine really fun like that. And then once I've got those on, I'm going to wash my brush so I can show you what I was talking about with that cinched thing and any other little dark shadows I want. So I can pick up a little bit of black paint, and if I want this to look a little bit more cinched, I can take my black and just kind of put these darker areas kind of coming right out from underneath that belt. So it'll look like the cloth is kind of being pulled or shadowed within her waist region. And you can do the same thing here. I feel like I need a little bit more shadow behind this arm anyways, so I'm going to just kind of pull that, a little bit of shadow in through there, and then even maybe up on this back side of this arm, I feel like that could use some more shadow anyways. I feel like that was a little bit too bright, so we're just gonna tone that down a little bit. I also feel like I want a shadow underneath her hair, so I'm picking up a little bit more black, giving myself shadow underneath her hair, and maybe a couple shadow pieces within the hair as well, something like that. I feel like I need to soften this this shoulder a little bit too. There we go. We're just going to get that shoulder to just peek out from there. We don't need it to scream out. There we go. That makes me a little bit happier. There we go. And then once I've got that, I'm going to, looks cute, I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to go finish this boot. But I'm going to wash my brush and put water on it so I can get rid of this chalk mark so I can see again if I need to or want to do anything more with the shape of that, or if I feel I want to put the hint of the other boot, which I'm thinking I might want to put just maybe the little toe of the other boot. So if this foot is here like this, the other one would probably be, I'm thinking up and to the right a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of black paint. I just feel like I want a little tip of the toe in through here, just because, you know, sometimes you feel like you got to do what you got to do, and I feel like she needs another foot. So I didn't think she was going to need to initially, but as I'm seeing it kind of coming to fruition, I'm like, yeah, she needs another little tip of the toe. So just kind of mimic whatever you did on this side. If you can see that toe shape, just kind of give it something similar. Yeah, she needed that little tip of her toe, and I can put some of her dress back over it if I need to. So once I've done that, I can add, this is just water, my chalk is still showing. I can just add little highlights similar to how I did the dress. So I'm going to go with black and a little bit of gray. So black and a little bit of gray, and then maybe just a little kind of highlight on that toe part, maybe a little bit kind of down here and down the side, just giving a little highlight, a little bit on that edge in through there, and then maybe just a little bit more black. Oops, that was not the right color, black. So again, nothing major, just little highlights to explain to the viewer that it's got a little bit of form and dimension to it. You could, of course, add a little bit of that cobalt blue and gray as well. I'm not sure if I said I was using cobalt blue in this step, but you could do that as well if you want to look shiny. And then, of course, a little shine to the tip of her boot would definitely make that stand out, and maybe just a little shine to that other inside edge, and of course shine up the other boot too. If you chose to, whatever color you did on this one, you just add that little bit onto the other one. And then I'm gonna just add a little bit more there. Then I'm going to finish her hair, and then we'll do our orange things. So for her hair, I feel like I want it to be a little bit more orangey, so I'm gonna pick up a little bit more orange. Just kind of add little bits kind of maybe over her shoulder, and then I'm going to pick up some brown and just kind of add, so it kind of is taking on a similar color to the straw on the broomstick, but you of course again can make yours whatever color that you want. I also feel like I might pick up a little bit more black too, so there's a little bit more dimension in it. Something like that, just give a little extra something. And then that looks cute. A little bit more orange, and you can of course make it a little bit lighter if you wanted to on her shoulder by just adding maybe even just a little bit of that light brown plus white. So light brown plus white will give you a nice kind of highlight right on that shoulder, in order to give you an extra bright pop or lightness in through there. So that looks nice. Then I'm going to go do my orange things. So my orange things, well, let me just put a couple more pieces of hair there. There we go. My orange things, I'm going to just start with a little bit of orange, and you'll see how bright this orange is now that it's got white underneath it. It's definitely orange. And you can of course do whatever color orange that you want, but my orange tends to have a lot of yellow in it. So if you were to thin this out and put a really thin coat on, it would almost, I mean, it definitely says orange, but it definitely has a lot of yellow in it, which I love during the Halloween or holiday season, the October holiday season. So once I've got this on here, I can start adding some fun details to it. And I'm just putting a thin coat so it dries really fast. So just a little thin coat. I also want some on her sock. Her little sock in through here is going to get some orange. It's a little orange. And of course, any fun details that you want to do are up to you. This is what these kind of paintings are all about. They're about just enjoying the process of character making, character building. So once I've got that, I'm going to just put a little fun buckle detail. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black paint. I'm going to have maybe a little buckle in through here. And of course, I'm doing mine kind of sideways because I want it to read as sideways. I'll put a little shadow on each side of it. On her waist, I don't really need to do, I'm not going to really do much. I guess I could put like a little similar, well, I'm just going to kind of put shadow down here. So black plus orange, just going to make this kind of shadowy. I suppose I could put like a little stringy thing, but I think I'm just going to shadow it down here. So this is just black and orange. Shadow that down there. On the socks, maybe shadow this one up here. So this black and orange is where my shadow is coming from. Maybe a little bit here. And then a little here. I'm going to wash my brush. And I'm going to put yellow and a touch of white. So yellow with a touch of white is going to give me a beautiful highlight on this orange. So yellow and a touch of white. Just making sure I don't have any black on my brush. And I'm going to put a highlight up at the top of this little buckle thing. Maybe to the left. A little highlight in through here. And if your orange is still wet, just roll with it. I'm just having fun with putting this little highlight on here. On her waist, I'm definitely going to put this highlight up towards the top. So that will make her waist look like it bumps out a little bit. Something like that. And then on the sock, just wherever you feel it's closest to the viewer, that's where you'll put that highlight, somewhere in through there. And I think that's all I'm going to do for that part. I'm going to use, let me just put a little bit more white on her back right here. I'm going to use this same brush for the next step. I feel like I want her hair a little lighter here too. So you can just wash and dry this small brush and you can stop, get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to paint some bats. So I'm going to be using my number 2 round brush, and the color I'm using is just black on this one. So I have a couple of different go-to bats that I do during the holiday season, so I'm going to teach you my favorite one. It's going to be a nice generic bat shape. I'm using black paint with a little bit of water. I'm going to do a whole bunch of bats in different directions, in different sizes. You can certainly do them whichever way you would like. So I'm going to first do my first one over here. So how I'm going to start this is with a kind of a long basic bird shape like that. Then I put the body and head on, which is kind of like a circle at the head, and I just bring it back down for the rest of the body. And then I put 2 little bat ears on the top, and then on the wings themselves I just do a series of undercurves. So undercurve 1, 2, 3, and you can have as many as you want, but I would just suggest on each bird do the same one. Ooh, bird. I don't know if it's a bird. It's a mammal. Oh my gosh, my knowledge is gonna not work right now. Okay, so something like that. That's my kind of my go-to bat. You can make yours whatever way you want. I'm going to do a whole bunch of these in different ways or in different sizes and shapes. So maybe I do another one even more tipped here, and maybe this one's going across the moon like this. So I started the same way, my little bat body with my bat ears, and then the smaller ones I can make my little bumps on the wings that way. I'm going to do a couple of large ones over here. So maybe this one I've got pretty darn large. You can push your brush even harder when you want those when you're doing some bigger ones. You could even make the wings different lengths. If one wing is longer than the other one, it's going to appear as though the animal, we'll just call it an animal, is at a different direction, or is coming in at a different direction. So, and these are little bat ears, and then I can take this, and I'll show you that, what I'm talking about on the next one. 1, 2, 3, and then the tip, and then 1, 2, 3, and then the tip. And so if I wanted one to look like it's kind of at a different angle, what I could do is I could take it and say, okay, well, I'm going to make one side short and the other side long. And that's going to allow me the freedom to, and maybe I don't even see the head that much. So the further away they are, the less detail you're gonna see. So just as if you've got, oh, those are some big points on that one. So if you've got just a little hint of something that's going to resemble the bat, you're doing fine. And then you can make as many as you want. Maybe I do another one kind of coming over the moon. So my brush is overloaded right now. I don't know if you can detect this. It's really thick with paint. So I'm not going to get a clean line like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash my brush. There's too much paint in it right now. So wash it, and there, now I have a repointed tip, because I had the interior, the belly of my brush was too overloaded. So now I have a nice pointy tip to do these small ones. And again, a little bit of paint on your brush will help. And I can do this one. You can do them at whatever angles you want. That's the beautiful part about this kind of step, is you get to say what's happening here. This one I can hardly see the body, so I'm just going to make a couple little bumps at the top, and then maybe just a couple little bumps at the bottom side of those wings to make it appear as though it's the bat. That looks good. You can put a whole bunch of little tiny ones off in the distance too, and maybe you don't even see the details of these guys. Maybe you just put the little tiny generic bird shape, little check marks, or just little pointed wave type of marks. So if you want there to be a whole flock of bats, you know, just put tons and tons of these little teeny ones, and you can put them all over the place, and they're so small nobody's going to know whether or not they are total bat detail or not. But if you do get into the bigger ones, you can certainly add more of those bat details. I don't even know if I want any more. I'm like, do I want any more? Maybe just maybe we'll do one more in through here so you can really see it. A couple little bat ears, something like that, and then just a couple little points. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I think that's gonna do it. Any more little ones that you want, certainly feel free to put them anywhere. Ooh, maybe we got a couple going off the canvas. Put them in strategic areas that might need filling in or hiding or disguising as something else. And I think that's going to do it. So I'm going to use this same small brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I will be using my number 2 round brush. I'm going to sign this in the lower left with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you can sign yours however you want. You can make up a fun symbol. You can sign it on the back. You can hide it in your painting. Whatever you want to do is up to you, because it is your painting and you make those kind of decisions all on your own. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope that you enjoyed the process and painted yourself a fun Halloween inspired image, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.